again, look, many of you are far more acclimatized to working as part of a team than me, but if you're co-commentating with someone, the way I've always led it to happen, led to believe it unfolds, unlike TV where, and you can do it like this, in TV you might have say it's an 800, you'll have a lead commentator who might do the lane lineup and take them through to say 200. And then you'll have someone just to sort of, what I would call the Brendan Foster role. Say if it's Crammy and Brendan, Crammy would sort of tee it up, do the 128, take them round to 200. Brendan would, and they dovetailed each other brilliantly because they worked together for so long, so they could probably almost sense when the other one was stopping to let them back in. But anyway, so Brendan would come in from 200 to the bell, and then Crammy does the last lap, gets them across the line, and then Brendan comes in over the replays. Beautiful, absolutely seamless broadcast. So you can do it that way with announcing, especially if you've got loads and loads of 800s. It might be nicer to hear two voices during the race than it would be you do that one, I'll do that one, you do this one, I'll do that one. You could do it either way. All I would say is, if you're going to carve it up, if you're working with someone else and you're both talking about the same race, it's worth a 30-second conversation to clarify who's going to speak at what bit. I mean, it doesn't have to be robotic, but the fewer times you talk over each other, the nicer it is to listen to. And of course, as I've mentioned, it's slightly unfair to bring out the Crammy and Brendan example, because you're talking about two guys who worked together for decades and were teammates. So that level of understanding would only come after such a long period of time. And the other thing that you'd quite quickly learn, regardless of whether you're announcing or commentating, you will be with someone who might make a mistake. If you've had slightly more time to prepare the stats, you might be sitting next to someone and, I've got an example of this actually, where you really respect the person you're working with and they've made a little mistake. You'd never ever, in my opinion, you would never ever directly contradict what that person has said. There's a few little ways of, say if they're talking about, say if they've misidentified an athlete, you could say, well, of course, Learmonth is having a great season. He's not the other one saying, oh, Learmonth is leading. Learmonth is having a great season. But also, what a fantastic day this is turning out to be for so-and-so. And you're almost sort of subconsciously saying to them, it's this guy leading. So you can say that, or if you're watching a race that's entirely the other commentators, announcers, you're pointing to the sheet. So there's loads of different ways that you can help the other person if they're making a mistake. And look, I've been on both sides of that. I've been that person. Well, it's a fantastic race unfolding here. No. And you're waxing lyrical about someone really authoritatively, and then the person next to you makes you realise you've cocked up and you're actually talking about the wrong one. So I've been in that situation, and you'll look at the other person, you'll take the hint and go, oh yeah, of course, it's so-and-so. And as soon as they point it out, you realise the mistake. And you go, well, it's a fantastic race for so-and-so. And you might say, oh, I made a mistake there. And equally, I've been on the other side of it where you're trying to help someone else out. The funniest example that I can think of, I know this is more to do with commentating, but I share it with you anyway. Do you know one of the best people I've ever had the privilege of commentating with is Steve Ovett. All of you will know everything about Ovett. You wouldn't believe what a modest man he is in commentary. Because if you've got an Olympic champion next to you, you say, well, Steve, tell us what that mindset's like when you get into a final and da-da-da-da. So you're always sort of paying tribute to the fact that he's done it to the very highest level. And Ovett would always, well, of course, not about me. It's about, it's a different ball game these days. It's harder psychologically. And he'd give you a wonderful self-deprecating answer. Anyway, we were in Beijing. It was the penultimate world champs that Ovett and I had the privilege of working on together. I was so sad when he decided to pack it up in London in 17. And the 400 was on, and that was an amazing race, wasn't it? Because we thought, you had, I think was Karani James going well in that one? Merritt, LeJean Merritt, Karani James, and Van Niekerk. And Ovett was commentating. It was his, because you take it in turns, who's going to lead on each race, and then Ovett's, fantastic, and he's going on about bloody LeJean Merritt, LeJean Merritt, and he's rocking backwards and forwards, getting really excited. I looked and went, no. It's Van Niekerk. Ovett's on the microphone. So I took my headset off, and listen, I'm not being rude to Steve, because I would expect him to take the mickey out of me for various things. I'm just giving you a little story because it struck in my mind when I was looking at my notes about being a team player. So Ovett's going absolutely apoplectic. LeJean Merritt, the American, down the back straight. And Van Niekerk was leading by bloody miles. So I took my cans off. I put my hand over the microphone to make sure that it wasn't going to come across, but there was a lot of noise in the stadium. And I was just going, I didn't look at him because I didn't want to distract him. So there's loads of different ways you can make somebody realise or make somebody hear you without distracting them too much, because you can really interrupt their flow, especially on something as fast unfolding as a 400. So I didn't look at him, but I had all the hands over my mic, so it didn't come over. And I just went, Van Niekerk. So he didn't hear me. Van Niekerk! And then my eyeballs are like virtually bulging out. And I went, Van Niekerk! Like that. And then he goes, I'm Van Niekerk, so I'm coming wide on the outside. I was like that. And then he smashed the end of the race. It was brilliant. So, I mean, even Steve Ovett's done it. But that was the best example I can remember, because other than screaming into his face as loudly as I possibly could, I couldn't think of any other way that I could get that information to him, that it was Van Niekerk coming wide on the outside. Because occasionally, if you've got a big favourite in 4, if you've got 2 outside each other in 4 and 5, you can get sidetracked by that, because your mind's going, right, Karani James, LeJean Merritt, James Merritt. And then you can sort of forget somebody on the outside. I mean, I don't know what it is about Van Niekerk winning those races from the outside. I mean, what he did in Rio in 16 was absolutely incredible. But anyway, so, you've got to help each other out. And it could be as simple as shouting a name, but making sure it's not going into the microphone, and then they'll realise what's going on. So, prioritisation. What I wrote for that is, give yourself half a minute. As I said, look, and I'm repeating myself here because I don't want this to be an intimidating option for those of you who are volunteering to do some announcing at your club. No one's going to expect it to be perfect. If you're about to call a men's 200, give yourself 30 seconds to go, because it doesn't matter about filling every single 5-second chunk of airtime. Give yourself that 30 seconds before you jump on the mic to go, right, okay. You've had a quick look at your notes. You go, right, if I'm short of time here, I'm going to highlight, speaking of highlights, these guys are your best friends. These are your best friends. If your eyes are like mine, I have to wear my glasses and like the headmaster thing, because I need to look at the notes, but I like to see the track of my own eyes. If you're really short of time, if you've had a chance, you don't have to spend ages on it, but I've always got, you find your own little, I've got hundreds of these bloody things. My son's always playing with these. Half of them run out. But if you've only got a minute to look at a start sheet, if all you do is go through and go, right, where I see green, I know they're quite fast. If that's all you have chance to do in that 30 seconds where you're letting the event breathe, that's your help. That's helpful. So just give yourself a little bit of thinking time. You haven't got to fill every single second. And the other thing I would say is, if you're in the middle of, say, getting ready for a men's 2 and the results come in for the women's discus, which you clearly won't have seen because you don't have the benefit of television coverage in front of you showing you the close-up replay of so-and-so throwing, 19 meters 50, take a moment to go, right, okay, I haven't got to blurt this out. I do need to give this information in the not too distant future, but I don't need to blurt this out in the next 5 seconds. So what I need to do is get this ready. I need to do this men's 2 because they can't be stood waiting for me on the start line. So I'll say, right, results just in for the women's shot put. We'll bring you those as soon as this men's 200 metres is finished. You're then taking control of when you're giving that information out. No one's going to come up to you screaming and shouting, going, oh, you had that result and you didn't give it out. You're trying to get through the day and you can't do it all at once. So you be in control of those bits. You can't control how many bits of paper are flying at you from all different directions, but you are in control of when you give that information out. And you're better off focusing on the event that's in front of you and giving yourself 30 seconds at the end of that to go, right then, great field event action today. Let's take a minute to recap the women's shot put. And even just that little bit of, that little mental punctuation mark makes you a lot smoother. Assimilation, well, I mean, that's a big word, isn't it? I'm not really sure I know what that means. I do in a literal sense, but look, what I do, whether I'm announcing or commentating, I haven't got one in front of me. Well, I've got a to-do list. I'm really old-fashioned. I have bits of paper everywhere. Right, look, I mean, this is irrelevant. This is like paperwork, but I'm a big one for to-do lists, so maybe you can't see that. So that's the bit of admin I've got to do tomorrow. In the same way, the only reason I'm showing you this is because when I do a meet, I write down all the track events on one side and I'll put all the field on the other, and I'll write it in such a way that when I know that event's finished, I can put a tick by it. So it just helps me to get, and you've got to do it however, you might be a whiz on computers. I'm pretty old fashioned for my age. I'm 46, but I love a pen and a paper and a pencil because you can rub it out and it's not going to crash. It's always there. So in terms of this sort of assimilation of information, I like to have a little mental map of how this session is going to pan out. If it sticks to the order, roughly to the order in which it's supposed to be happening, and I'll cross them out when I've done them. So if I get a result coming in, I'll go, oh, right, okay, so we're about a third of the way through now, everybody. Hope you're enjoying it. You know, still got 2 hours to go, blah, blah, blah. Still to come, we've got da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So always have that in addition to, you know, the bloody massive wodge of start sheets that you'll have. It's one bit of paper that gives you an overview as to what's happening. So that's something that I always think is quite important. Get yourself a timetable.